Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Allie Coram and Ed Carson here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, where we saw the market rally hit a little bit of resistance.
Yes, it did. I mean, it's not a real shock. The market rally attempt is still there, but we did hit resistance at a key level. Northern oil and gas, at least, was trying to break out today. Louisiana-Pacific has bounced back from last week's sell-off, but we also have Dollar Tree, which is setting up nicely ahead of earnings.
Well, we'll take a look at all of that, but first, let's take a look at the major indexes. So here's a look at the NASDAQ Composite, down about 1.6% today, same for the S&P 500. The Dow down 1.8% by the session's close, and the Russell 2000 down about 2.5%. So from a technical standpoint, the NASDAQ came up almost to that 21-day line, and that's a level of resistance that we've been keeping close tabs on since late January.
Yeah, I mean, it tried to poke above a couple times in February. So, you know, if we do get above it, doesn't mean that we're sticking above it. But yeah, since early January, it's been an issue. I mean, we haven't been able to get above it for long. Not a real surprise. I mean, like having this one pause is not so much. And look, there's so many headlines. There's so many headlines shifting everything around. But getting above this is one area. Getting above that would be really nice, but there's still a lot of other hurdles, for all the major indexes.
That's exactly right. So let's take a quick look at the S&P 500 as well. Not quite all the way to its 21-day line either, below that 4,400 level. And taking a look at the Dow as well, stuck below 34,000. The Russell 2000 taking the hardest hit today. It was above its 21-day line for a little bit, now back below that level as well. Let's also take a look at an ETF that tracks oil. What a big move today. I mean, we've been saying for weeks that this is looking like maybe it could be at levels where it could come in a little bit, and it's done the opposite.
I mean, look, nothing like a major war to happen. So, I mean, that changes. You can look at technicals and all these things. Everything is changing with a lot of things, and that's something investors have to come to grips with.
Yes, that's for sure. Okay, and now let's take a quick look at the 10-year Treasury yield, 0 TNX on MarketSmith. That coming off in a pretty big way this week.
Yeah, so that's come off. The Fed Chief Powell speaks tomorrow morning. That's a big deal. There's actually now, a couple weeks ago, we were looking at strong chance that we get a 50-point hike on the mid-March meeting. Now there's actually a decent chance that we won't get a rate hike at all, according to the markets. Now, still, odds are we'll get a quarter-point hike, but the market has really swung to a different direction, given obviously all the things that have been going on.
Yeah. So is this a net positive for investors, or how do investors interpret that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're worried that everything is going to slow down and be gyrating, it's not really that positive. It's so like if things got better, you'd expect the yields to move back up. So I don't think this is really a positive. Definitely saw the financials get whacked today.
Okay, well, let's take a look at a name in the oil and gas area, and that is Northern Oil and Gas, and the U.S. Exploration and Production Group breaking out of a cup with handle base here today with a gain of over 2% in some above average volume on the heels of a decently strong quarterly earnings report as well. So a breakout here, yet another in the oil and gas area.
Yeah, a couple things. It's weird. Oil's up 8% and Northern Oil and Gas is up 2% and closes near the lows. That's sort of interesting because even though they do follow energy, the market coming down, I don't know why, but there's definitely that mix, that situation. On the positives, relative strength line is near high. It's definitely above the handle high. The downside is that while it's doing well versus the regular market, a lot of energy stocks have already led. So do you want to buy one of those, or do you try to buy, do you wait for a leader to try to pause? They're not pausing. I mean, oil keeps going up like that, so it's hard to buy the leaders. So that just makes it tricky. But Northern Oil and Gas had a nice technical move today, all in all.
It did. So perhaps this, along with others starting to break out in the sector, could be a part of a second wave in this leading group. David Ryan on IBD Live this morning saying that there could be a chance that this is the first year of an 18-month or so move. So we'll keep a close watch for the prospect of that. But either which way, we don't have a follow through day yet, so we will be careful when it comes to buying stocks, especially breakouts. Let's also take a look at LPX, Louisiana-Pacific, in the building wood products group, holding above that 50-day line after recently retaking that level. But unlike other stocks that held above their late January lows, LPX actually undercut that level along with the NASDAQ's recent action as well. What do you think of that?
Yeah, there's action after earnings. And then actually, if you could punch at Boise Cascade for just a moment, because its peer also came out and whatever, the stock completely crashed on some comments and then immediately came back. That's just crazy. But LPX, it's
Yeah,
bounced back. So it had, in some ways, I'd say this was a nice shakeout. I mean, you could say this was almost, you could argue this is a double bottom base. It doesn't
right.
look that
It's true.
great because it's sort of weird, but technically that 7204, which is below the 50-day line, which is not ideal, that is above the midpoint of that base. I mean, again, so 7214, could be a buy point if you want to see it. Certainly, it would be at a decent early entry.
Mhm.
And so this is coming back. I mean, wild action, but we're used to it. And if you just with any stock, be very careful with any kind of thing you do.
Yes, and maybe a handle forms here because a lot of the double bottoms that we've been talking about in recent weeks have either needed a handle or ended up forming a handle or more, in the second wave down here. Let's also take a look at Dollar Tree DLTR with the RS line blue dot just ahead of its earnings report.
Yeah, I mean, it backed off a little bit. That's why, the RS line was at a new high. It's been at a new high. Yeah, there's a draw the line basically. It had handles, this and that, you could argue, but you get above that line. I think you're talking about a buy signal. There's, and that issue. They have earnings tomorrow. Just to point out that fiscal 2022, this wraps up fiscal 2022. The earnings are down for that year. I don't know what the estimates were for this quarter that we're going to see, but next year, which we've already started, pretty good earnings growth, so
Mhm.
that's a positive, and this is doing better than most other discounters, most other retailers. So if this has any kind of bounce back, this would seem to be a potential leader there.
Right. And yeah, that blue dot is significant. We like seeing stocks with that outperformance versus the S&P 500 as they're working on the right side of the base. All right, Ed, thanks so much for weighing in today. And everyone, make sure you tune into IBD Live tomorrow morning. Arusha Peiris, our monthly guest on the show, is joining us once again. Always good to hear from him. And we have lots more happening this week, including in just a little bit, Swing Trader Scorecard. So we hope you join us for that, swingtrader.investors.com for all the details. And we'll see you back here tomorrow.